Public hearing. You get 3 minutes to speak what you like. Please step up to the mic and state your name, address, and what you'd like to say, please. Anybody got any public comment? Mr. Eddy?
Brad Eddy, 1890 South Huron Road.
I did not turn that on.
On the top, maybe. Slide it up.
All the way up.
Green.
There you go. Navigate.
Brad Eddy, 1890 South Huron Road. Pat, I did not say those accusations that you said. I just read the transcript. That is not true, what I said about your property. And if you'd like to talk about it, I can show you maps right there that show it was industrially zoned before you bought it. I told you it was C3 before that, and I can prove that. It was the same as my family's land. I never said you did anything. So if there's accusations, I can make many more, but I consider you a pretty decent guy, so if you want to make something towards me, we can change. But, and then as far as Comm Township, if my grandfather and my father-in-law zoned their property C3, who else took that fact away than Comm Township? Who did, Pat? You just said it's not a fact. So who did? Is it a planning commission? Is it a master plan? Who is the master? Who's the puppeteer? Because it seems certain people can get stuff done here, no problem, and then others, you want to fight. Go after widows, go after poor people, go after people who can't defend themselves. Well, I can. And I have facts. You guys claimed some of those things weren't facts that I had. I promise you, if you guys did get that 3-ring binder, I gave that 3-ring binder to Charlie to give to the board. The board, not just you guys. That was the purpose of the correspondence in the last public comment, because it didn't have to do with the agenda. I waited till the end. So when it comes to the C3 to I-1 industrial zoning, how does that happen without telling people? How does that happen without telling my mother, a widow, that her property use has changed? How does that happen now that my mother-in-law, a widow, her property use has changed? How does that happen? And there's many more to come. But if you guys want to play this side of the fence, get ready, because Brad Eddy's got a whole bunch of stuff, and I will expose all of it. So dream on if you think you're going to get rid of facts. And I don't know where you guys think that you can just destroy somebody's public comment, because I've been at almost all of those townships that you guys mentioned, and if you looked at my comments on those in my discussions, they're almost verbatim, word for word. Because why? They're competent, just like those minutes should be written, with discussion, wondering how we go from certain uses to other uses. How do we change properties? I mean, there's people here that are talking about this beach property. How did it go from residential to C1? Okay, now it's C1. Now it turns into a township issue. They're not responsible for it turning to C1, but they have to deal with it because the previous. Well, my property was changed to C3 due to my grandfather. 60 years ago this week was Eddy Brothers' anniversary. I'll be damned if I'm going to let any of you take it from me, or my family. There will be another generation, and another.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Cameron Penix, 53 South Linwood Beach Road. I have a few questions. For one, what's the notification process for these meetings? Is there supposed to be emails delivered to people? Is there supposed to be letters sent or anything? Or is it just up to the public to be able to inform themselves on these meetings?
Well, it's posted, the agenda is posted online, and then, you know, if there's any other special stuff, it's posted in the Pinconning Journal, which is the legal newspaper.
Okay. Because I've heard from people as I've talked and been in these meetings something about letters.
You only get a letter if there's changing something within your, like, 300 feet or whatever of your area, like if there's a zoning change or something like that. So back when, let's say when Hoyle's changed, you know, put up for the property to be changed to C1 from whatever it was, prior to that, then there was notices sent to the neighbors,
Okay.
and there was hearings. And I went back and looked at, it started back in
18. 28, April
18, yeah, April of 18 is when I could first find it, is when it was first brought up, and then it was taken, but, so that's when that started.
So, okay.
But, so that's when you would get a notification.
Okay. So, again, I'm here to oppose the building, what's going on in our south yard. Resale value is, again, another big worry. I mean, realistically, if there's 2 to 3 cabins there, you're probably just gonna push my family out of there. So resale does come up very big for that, because we're gonna wanna probably get out of that home. Now, we've been here roughly 30 years. That lot, grew up on it, used it my whole life. I understand the real world situation that's going on. They bought it, they get to do what they want. Now, I would say you keep it kind of like what's around it. There's residential style homes around it. There's nobody there set up with a 500 square foot cabin, let alone 2 to 3 of them. We were also referred to as our rental home as a resort. Airbnb, VRBO, it's a home, it's not a resort. There's a big difference in those kind of qualifications. Just because they want to bring a resort in doesn't mean refer to us to match. You know what I'm saying? So, and then again, I brought up the verbiage of C1 and how it says dwelling, not dwellings, and it kind of baffles me that your guys' answer to that is, well, let's just change the verbiage. To me, that seems like the cares for one person doesn't matter to the other, and I hope there's a process of that where we can all come and see how that goes too. And it also, we've talked about Taco Bell. The fact that Taco Bell hasn't been able to get put in kind of blows my mind too. That should be a couple $100,000 worth of taxes for the township, you'd think. You know, that's just my thoughts, but I don't know. But to me, it just seems like, again, kind of like Mr. Eddy said behind me, some people get a leg up, and then other places kind of just get pushed down. But, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Is it isolated to only items on the agenda?
Sorry.
My name is Michelle Penix, and I live at 53 South Linwood Beach Road, and I also own 43 South Linwood Beach Road. Good evening, Collin Township Board members. I would like to introduce myself. I'd like to let you know that I've lived at this location for over 30 years. I'm almost half of my life have I lived there, as well as my children's lives. I have 3 boys and 1 daughter. Through the time, we helped with the neighbors next door as they got older, and we offered to buy their house when they passed. Roger Hoyle at that time tried to up us 10 grand and go over our head like usual, but the owner of the home felt compelled to let us have it, seeing as we'd helped them through their sorrows and sadness in their lives. So that's how we obtained the house next door, which then we used for our children, as we thought it'd be good stepping stones for them to go off to college, have a home without the rent and all those great things. Well, 3 years ago, my son took his life in that house. And so we made it a legacy in his name, not a resort. We made it to stand towards the people who like to fish in our community. We call it fishing in heaven for a reason. And we don't want little cabins around us with several different kinds of people. We want our community safe. We want it kept that way. If you want to invest and do something for the community, try the schooling. Try the education, try mental health. If your pockets are that deep and you can do so much, try putting it towards something that benefits instead of takes away. If you can tell, I'm shaking because I've dealt with this situation now for a year. They come in, they've destroyed the lands that are behind by the water, the wildlife they didn't care about, trees they cut down that fell on a truck that had a person inside the vehicle. Not even sure if that tree was allowed to be cut down. It's over 100 feet tall, but to them that doesn't matter. So I'm objecting this in a huge manner. There's no space for the vehicles, the boats that come with the cars that want to fish and be here. We offer plenty of property and land, and the marina offers us extra if we need it. I don't see that happening so well with them. So I stand in front of you today to beg you to not let this happen. Don't turn our little Linwood into a rental property nightmare. You're talking 3 there, 5 over here, and 2 up at the front. And they don't care. They don't care. Trust me, they don't care. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Scott Shafransky, Linwood Beach Marina and Campground, address 135 South Linwood Beach Road, Linwood. Our concern is just the precedent that might be set if to the C1 zoning, for the rest of the township.
Anybody else? Okay, public hearing closed. New business. Zoning ordinances and definition updates. We really don't have much on that. I mean, so this is the 60-some day window if we have any other people who have something to say or have challenged on the master plan. We take all those in consideration when it comes time for the very last time before it gets voted through by the township board. Condominiums, you had a question on that, or?
No, that's something that I think we have to start addressing now. It's come up a couple times, and I don't believe we have anything in place that's going to address size, where they're gonna be built, and how they're gonna be built, what they're gonna,
We've looked at it for me, because I built a barn dominium 20 years ago up by Tawas. And it comes under the same guidelines as a regular house. Your setbacks and everything else have to be within there. Biggest thing with that, it all comes under building, it doesn't come underneath the zoning. I mean, because it's just another style of house, as long as the house is built, because they have to be built to regulation. Matter of fact, even stringent ones, if you have living space and you have a shop, you have to have the fire break between the two, fire rated stop doors, everything else, underneath there, same thing. So, from what the other ones handle it, I haven't seen where they have a separate classification for barndominium yet. It all is just the style of the house and the building.
the style is not the problem, it's if you do a barndominium type home, that's one thing. If you do a barndominium type home where you have an auto shop in it, and you're in a residential area, that's another thing. So, by us putting a definition in to address that, then we
So
can
you want
control
us to-
what kind of barndominium goes where and what it contains. I believe barndominium started out as the same thing as golf communities, where the communities are built around a golf course. These are built around horse farms, so that the people that had the barndominiums also had their stables. And it evolved from there. So without something to address how they're gonna be built and where they're gonna be built, you're gonna run into a problem down the road in the future when somebody comes in and says, I wanna do this, and we don't have anything to address it, and it gets on hold for 120 days because we gotta go through the process. If we do it now, then if somebody comes in and says, I wanna build this barn dominium here, here, and here, we've got something to look back at and says, does it fit in with this zoning and this definition? Otherwise, we're
So
behind.
what
It
don't you
becomes
want,
a tail
what don't
wagging
you
the
want
dog.
them then?
Pardon?
What don't you want them then? What type of
I'm
classification?
just saying we have to look into it. I haven't gone that far.
Okay.
I haven't do it, but that's a discussion for the board.
Sure.
And if it wants to be sent to Spicer, and Spicer starts working on it for a definition, send it back to us, we look at it, or we communicate between each other. We've got 60 days before we meet again. In 60 days, they could have a good rough draft of
So do you wanna
what this would look like.
send it to Spicer for guidance for them?
Well, yes. They can
To see
send
what
it
they
back
say,
and,
if they've got anything in any of their townships.
right, and then they can start developing that before we get into a place where we don't have an ordinance for multi-dwellings on a single parcel.
Multiple dwellings
Yeah, we don't get into that. Right now, we didn't have, people wanted to put multi-dwellings on a single parcel, and we didn't have anything to address it.
Right,
And now we're
okay.
catching up, what, from January to June? Or earlier?
I'll go ahead and, okay.
And then if Spicer gives you something, send it to everybody, we can get feedback on it.
Right.
We want, you know, we know exactly when we have to meet,
That's fine.
go from there.
Did you say we were in the review for the master plan?
I'm sorry, I made a mistake, Charlie, thank you.
No, I just was wondering.
It's down below. The zoning ordinance and definition updates, yeah, we do have stuff for that too, so.
Did Spicer ever look at that and send us, in the minutes here from last time? Yeah, Mr. Eddie's property the property lines had to be checked. And then,
I've got a list of stuff to send to Spicer.
yeah, the next thing was send it to Spicer and ask Spicer to do the wording and send it back to us to see if see if we like the wording or not. Did they do that?
Yeah,
But,
that's what this is, stuff that I gave you tonight. This
Spicer
is-
did this?
Yeah, I talked to Jennifer about this, she says, figure out where you wanna have it, so this is this is what she would do red line wise. If she does this, it's about $700 or $800. So all it's doing, if we agree with this, this is where this stuff is gonna go. So if you start on the page 1 that I gave you, so under special use provisions, it goes alphabetical, so cabinet courts would fit in between the bed and breakfast and campground travel park, 505, 506. And then these will all get shifted down, so it'll add one number.
I think Gary's talking about specific to the items on the master plan that we specifically tabled it, like for the.
I'm sorry, I thought we went back up because master plan's next, we have zoning ordinances and definition updates. I apologize, which one are we talking about?
No, I was talking about the same one you were.
All right. And then, so on the second page,
Let's see where it would go here.
Yep. And then it would be added under special use land use. And then it'll go above, be number 505, above campgrounds and trailer parks.
Okay, so you wanna do 2 or more cabins used for occupancy as a dwelling or sleeping quarters for transient or tourists for a fee.
Correct. Emmett Township, up in,
I read it.
yeah,
Okay, this doesn't address 2 or more cabins or 2 more dwellings on a single parcel.
Yeah.
Or does it?
2 or more cabins used for occupancy as a dwelling or sleeping quarters for transients or tourists for a fee.
It doesn't say on one plot of land or one,
That's what a cabin court is, it's on one plot of land.
but that's not defined.
Pardon?
That's not
Okay.
defined, I wouldn't know what a cabin court was. If I came in the area, I would have no idea what a cabin court is. I would know what a vacation rental home is, but I wouldn't know what a cabin court is.
We're going to use the definition that was on handout Article 2, right? The self-help you give me, right? This is the one?
Other than that other part, other than the seasonal part.
Correct.
That's, okay, so I took that,
Right.
and that's what this is,
Yeah.
without that in there. So this is right off the one off of,
Up north.
from up north out of Emmett
I understand that,
Township.
we still don't have, it still doesn't say
Right there
on
on
one
one
lot,
lot.
or one plot of land. I think that's the word.
One parcel.
That's where
right
we
here.
written parcel, that's where we ran into problems before.
One deeded parcel?
Just a parcel.
A parcel.
Definitions. Should add it in the definition.
What, cabin? Or
Cabin court.
cabin court, yeah.
You
Or-
could put that in the
or change
One or
it.
more used for
Definitions.
occupancy
Correct,
as
I
a
agree.
dwelling or sleeping quarters for residents.
Cabin court should have a definition.
Yeah, so it's, yes, it's in the definition, right?
And we're gonna put on a single lot, is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna write that in.
on one lot, yeah. Yeah, the bottom half of that cut off, and I had to handwrite these when they got printed.
I still don't think that we have a definition of what a cabin is, a cabin court.
This is this is the definition that they have.
2 more cabins used for occupancy.
Correct, that's what a cabin court is. It's a place where you have 2 or more cabins used for occupancy as a dwelling or sleeping quarters for transients and tourists for a fee on one parcel.
Okay, so then I go back, if they only put 1 building, that would come under,
Well, it's already, say,
would that come under, single-family dwelling?
on C1, you're already allowed to have, oh, you have multifamily on there.
There's single
Oh, it's
family,
going right,
too.
no, right here. Single-family dwelling on some same parcel as C1 use. So that's already done, that's by right.
So
You
if
can
they
put-
go,
By right, you have multifamily dwellings, and you have single-family dwelling on the same parcel as C1.
you have 2 family dwellings. Okay, so any one of these could also be a rental?
Yeah, there's nothing saying they can't rent.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
clarifying.
this is stipulated because that's the purpose of having the court. Because they want to have, because they had a bunch of those up there to begin with, and that's where they classified them as a court. You got 2 more cabins used for occupancy, renting them out for a fee. On one lot. Excuse me, parcel.
Do we have to define transient?
That's in there,
I mean, transient goes anywhere from 30 days to 180 days. I mean, that's,
no, I mean, who's got a buck? I didn't bring mine, sorry, I left it in the truck.
Oh, here. Would we place any?
Basically, transient means that they're not, you know,
Not
on
owner.
lease property, not owner.
I think transient is in this place in the occupation, how long the people are in the cabin.
I do believe up in Olin Township, you can only rent 2 months, or 2 weeks out of 1 month, and then they may have to be vacated, so it's not a continuous rotation.
The only
You know what I
definition,
mean, that's how they get away with it up there as far as keeping multiple people running in and out of there a lot, you know,
Right.
they limit their time of stay,
and I have,
the time that they can rent it.
I have transient occupant, any person who rents or occupies any dwelling unit or resident or part thereof for fewer than 30 days or 1 calendar month, whichever lies in, I mean, if we put a time on it, not just from a law review, it doesn't have to be used, it's just transients, 30 days or less, but I think another one said 180 days or less, so. Or we can leave it up to the owner.
I mean, what's your opinions about,
I mean,
you want,
John just said 2 weeks out of the month, which put a limit on it.
State parking puts a restriction on how long you keep a trailer in one spot.
well, see if people are clogging up the spot for the whole year. The state wants to turn over more money, so.
More people in and out. Right.